Hello, my name is Jason Beim from Warren County Community College, and today I'm going to demonstrate the Universal Ground Control Station software, otherwise known as UgCS Mission Planning Software by SPH Engineering. This software is professional grade that'll really ensure you bring a lot of detail to each drone mission that you plan for, really enhancing that situational awareness before you're on site. You can do everything from photogrammetry to corridor mapping, vertical scanning, even search and rescue patterns ahead of time. The one nice thing with this software is universal. You can apply the mission planning features that you learn through numerous UAS. Instead of relying on one proprietary type of software that only works with one type of UAS and then relearning another type of software that'll work with another type of UAS, the advantage of UgCS is that you can learn one application and apply it to multiple vehicles. There's all different types of functionality we're going to go over through these tutorials, but for today we're going to focus on a quick introduction to the software, then we're going to go through the installation process and follow on with a configuration for the download. Once you get the download on your computer, we'll go over setting the parameters on the main menu to ensure that it's set up the way you need it to be set up to make the actual planning phase a lot simpler. There are all different types of resources out there, and UgCS does a good job of developing a wiki page to ensure that all the documentation is in one place for easy and quick reference. But rather than going through the manual in detail and keep referring back to the manual, I'm putting these tutorials together so you have all the information you need at your fingertips. They do have some videos online, however they're not very organized and they're not very detailed. The intent of these tutorials that I'm making for you is to ensure that you're able to learn this software quickly, thoroughly, and so you can actually apply it and execute it in the field. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a quick demo of what UgCS puts out, advertising what the capabilities of the software is, and that's going to give you a better inside look of what the software is all about and what it looks like as it's being manipulated. And then after that we'll go into the installation process. So here's a quick video. To move into the installation phase of this tutorial, UgCS has a couple different options for you. If you go with the pricing, they have Pro version, they have Enterprise version, and they have different types of subscription levels you can purchase. For the purposes of this tutorial, I have the Enterprise version, which has basically everything unlocked. So once you go ahead and you make your purchase, they're going to send you an email with a activation code, a link, and a password. So we're going to go ahead and pull up a quick little copy of what it looks like. These aren't the actual passwords or activation codes. It's really just to give you an idea of what they're going to send you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the link. And we're going to pull up a feature where it brings us right to the password. I'm going to go ahead and put the password in, enter it, and next thing you know, it's going to open up this page. It's going to unlock the page with a zip file. Alright, I'm going to double click the zip file, and it's going to start the downloading process. So the download takes pretty, it's pretty quick of a download, and once we get through it, it's going to ask us, do we want to actually extract all the files, which we will want to do. UgCS does have other options out there. It's not all mission planning. They have some really good applications and features available. One of them, which we'll get into in future tutorials and a whole other section, is going to be Atlas, which introduces artificial intelligence and machine learning into your basically the drone processing portion of your operation, whatever your intended application is going to be. So here we go. We have about 30 seconds left. We're halfway through there, and once this is done loading, it's going to pop up another window, and we'll go ahead and open it up. Another thing I like about UgCS is it's really user-friendly. At first look, it's going to look a little complex because it's new to you, but the more and more you work with it, the more it's going to make sense, and in fact, it's going to actually most likely streamline your workflow, because you're going to really be able to precisely place each point you need rather than trying to eyeball it and wing it on some of the other mission planning softwares like Litchi or Pix4D Capture. Alright, so the download's complete. I'm going to open the file, and we can see I have a whole bunch of files here laid out for me. The top one here, that's the overall manual. We have the deployment instructions, and that's basically how we are going to go ahead and download everything. So these are your two manuals, the top one and the bottom one here. Alright, APK, that's a file for the Android device. So you can go ahead and install that file directly to your Android device, and it's essentially UgCS for DJI is the name of it. If you want to go ahead and look on the store, you can do that as well. Or if you want to, you're not connected to the internet, you want to download this directly to your tablet, you can do so here. They have release notes, and then they have a DMG file. So we have two files we're left with, and that's the UgCS 4.4.235 and then the UgCS CC 4.0.471. So first we're going to start with the application. That's going to be the main file we're going to work with, and we're prompted, do we want to extract it? And yes, we will. We're going to extract all. Go ahead and extract, and we're going to get another file. That file is going to have everything ready for the installation process. Okay, so we have all the same files here, but now we have access to them. Double click on the application file. Go ahead, hit yes. And it's going to start preparing the UgCS software for the installation. We're going to hit English. And then we have a nice little wizard here to help walk us through it. Next, I accept. That's where I want to save it. These are all the files. If you have other equipment and other resources out there that you need to connect to UgCS, you can actually select them here. Like if you're working with Micropilot or XP. So we have these are all the defaults, but if you have extra equipment that you want to utilize UgCS with, you can select them here. Next. Okay, next. And these just lets you know that there's certain ports for outgoing and incoming connections. When we get into streaming our UAS footage through the computer, we can actually open up different networks and then stream it through the internet. So we can have a server off-site, not on your same LAN, and that server can actually run the video player remotely. So if you wanted to have somebody across the country monitor your drone footage for whatever reason, you can do so. So good functionality with the program, but that's what this is getting at. Okay, preparing the installation, and we'll just let the wizard do its thing here. Considering how advanced the software is, the installation process is pretty straightforward. And once we get it all set up, it's going to lay out all the icons that you need on your desktop. And then from there, if you want to organize it into its own UgCS file, just to clean up your desktop, you can do so. Alright, just finishing up the install here, and I believe the last portion is going to be the uninstall feature here. Okay. Okay, everything is good. Start UgCS client, open documentation. So we can go ahead and hit finish, and it's going to launch us directly into the application. Alright, we have, this is the main UgCS website tutorial I was telling you about in the earlier portion of this tutorial. And what it does is it lays everything out. It has everything from some webinars and recordings to the actual UgCS wiki manual. The wiki manual has everything organized in a nice format here, so if you have questions or you want to reference an entire manual, you can do so here. Hopefully the intent of these tutorials that I'm creating for you is going to streamline the process, but just understand that if you're ever in a bind or you need some more information, you can find it here. The other thing is the files put out by UgCS, some of the video files they have online. I believe it's played through YouTube. They're not very detailed, and it's kind of piecemeal. So I'm trying to make everything organized to make sure that you can figure this out a lot quicker. Alright, I don't know if you heard the chime in the background earlier, but what that means is UgCS has been launched. So the first thing they need from you is going to be a activation code, and we'll go ahead and we'll put that in. Alright. And we're going to hit activate. Alright, so now we are activated. You can see with the indicator here, it tells you how much time you have left on your subscription and the actual version you're working with. Don't worry if there's an updated version by the time you're reviewing this tutorial, because the premise is going to be pretty much similar across all of the UgCS updates. It might be a little tweak here or there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close it, and you can see some of those video tutorials I was talking about earlier. On average, they're about 1 to 2 minutes, so there's really not too much to pull from these, but they are there if you need them. And you also have the quick link here for the UgCS wiki. Alright, I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to install the next file. So I'm going to minimize here, go into our main file, and that's the second application. This is going to be for the UgCS viewer. So a very similar type of process for the install. Alright, it's telling me that the application is running, so I need to close that first before I can move on. Alright, go ahead, I'm going to close the window. So I just closed the main client. Another thing I want to direct your attention to here is that if you look over here, these are how the program lays out the applications on your desktop. And this right here, that is the actual UgCS Service Manager. If you click on that, it'll tell you everything that's running. So if you want to stop a certain process, you can do so here by stopping it. If you need to restart it, you can do so, and we can quit the overall processes there. Okay. Alright, so I closed the other application. Now we're going to run the next wizard here, the UgCS CC setup. Very similar to the first process. And in here we have the three applications we want. You're going to get the video player, a video server, and a video transmitter in this second download. You're going to hit next, next, and again telling you the ports incoming and outgoing. This is a smaller file, so it should be a little bit quicker of an install process. And I believe the last phase again is going to be the uninstall package. Alright, and we can see we have some additional applications laid out here on our desktop over to the left. Alright, we'll go ahead and finish that. And that's it. That's basically the install for UgCS. And what we'll do is after this round here, we'll move into actually configuring it. So we went ahead, we activated the software, we did all the downloads for the 2 applications, and next we're going to start configuring. Alright, now that we have everything installed onto our computer, you can see, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that everything is laid out here on your desktop. So personally what I like to do is I like to move it all into a file. That way it's not cluttering up my desktop and a little more organized. So I built a file and I installed them all into the file here. And just to give you a little more orientation here, the UgCS client, that is the main application. So if you see in the wiki pages reference the client, that is the overall application that you're going to use, the overall interface for the mission planning. They have the service manager. Again, when you click on here, it tells you what's running and what's not. If you get into issues with network connectivity and you can't stream your video footage from your drone to your computer, open this up and take a look, because sometimes the video server might not be running, and in order for the feed to come through, that video server must be running. They have a telemetry viewer, which is just capturing data behind the scenes based on the telemetry of your UAS. This is the UAS video transmitter, so if you're going to be using a certain connectivity protocol, you can go ahead with the transmitter and open that up, and that'll help you get your video streaming across different networks as well. And then finally we have the video player. I'm not sure why this doesn't have an actual icon in it, but the video player is going to come into use once we want to stream it. So this is where you're going to see the drone footage coming through, and you're going to see the telemetry and all the mapping data come through on the client once we execute live. Alright, so I'm going to double click on the UgCS client. Again, we can see what version we're working with here on the top left corner. And by default the server is 127.0.0.1, and if you need to open up different ports or change that around, use the wiki tutorial. It gets a little more advanced, but for our purposes here, this is the main pop-up screen. So we can see the UgCS wiki page and the videos. That's default. I just have it popped up here. You can deactivate that, so every time you load into the program you don't have to see that. So what we're looking at here is the overall application of UgCS mission planning software, and what they've done is they've given kind of like a demonstration of what you can do. So here we have 2 different flights. We have emulator 101, that's what EMU stands for, and we have emulator 102. We'll scroll out here, and it just gives you a basic setup of what an actual mission would look like once it's fulfilled. So they put that in your face, so as you first log in, this is kind of what you're going to be working with, and these are the visuals you'll be dealing with. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go into the configuration. We'll get everything set up behind the scenes before we get into the actual planning portions of our mission. I'm going to open up the main menu here, top left. Just go ahead and click here. Opens up the drop down. We'll go to main menu. So from here you have different vehicles, and again, EMU stands for emulator. It's for simulating your mission. They have a quadcopter and they have a fixed wing. So if you want to build your mission and then see what it looks like after you you build it, and you want to see what it looks like simulating a UAS on it, you can do so. That's why these are automatically defaulted up there. If you have another UAS you work with, we're going to shortly get into the Mavic Pro, the DJI Mavic Pro. You're going to see all your default vehicles pop into vehicles. Okay. Next I'll click on profiles, and profiles are all the different compatible UAS available for UgCS software. And you can see it has primarily the entire DJI fleet. It has Autel, AudruPilot, they have Micropilot, Parrot, Nafi. So they have different types of vehicles available for you. For our purposes here, for the demonstration, I'm going to click on the Mavic Pro. Yes, an older UAS, but it is a good demonstration to work with. Alright, so we can see the DJI Mavic Pro, and the nice thing about this software is it automatically gives you stock parameters for the sensor that you're using. So this is the DJI Mavic Pro camera that you would get stock on a DJI Mavic Pro that you purchase. So under profiles, that's where you can find all this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and click that box there, and you get a drop down. And this further explains and expands the parameters are automatically set with this UAS through the program.
And what I'm going to recommend doing is go ahead and click on Edit, and you can actually change things around here. You can add a different sensor or payload, and kind of adjust it from there. And we're going to scroll down here. We see all the default settings, which you can refer to the owner's manual of your UAS to make sure that they are validated. But the program does a pretty good job of making sure everything is exact where you need it to be. One thing I find I have to do as we go through this is I want to change the measurements to imperial. We'll get to that in 1 second. You know what, that's actually a good time to do that now. So let me just bear with me here. We're going to go to configurations, and we're going to click on measurement. We're going to click on imperial. So instead of working with metrics, we're going to go with imperial. Meters now are going to be represented by feet. I'm going to go back into profiles, go back into the DJI Mavic Pro, and I'm going to expand that, go back to the edit mode, and this will give you a better understanding of kind of what I'm talking about. One of the defaults that the software automatically sets up is a fence radius, meaning how far out can you go? What's the actual radius of your drone operation through the mission planning? What I like to do, though I don't plan on flying 5,000 feet away from me, I just default to 5,000, because if you don't, the software is going to go into an error mode once you start the mission planning. If you go outside of this fence radius, it won't let you upload your mission to your UAS. So I'm going to just go ahead and update this to 5,000, and then for the fence altitude, I'm going to just put it 400 feet. That way, we're compliant with the Part 107 requirements for altitude. And if you want to just play around here, look here, you're going to see different parameters automatically set up for you. Just another quick insight here for GPS. Right now it has normal number of satellites is 9 with a load number of 7. Now you want to have good linkage with your UAS regardless of what type of operation you're flying. So this is a default safety standard. So in order to actually fly the mission, you have to be linked to 9 satellites. I do not recommend interfering with this, leaving it at 9 as the minimum. But if you need to, for whatever reason, bring that number down, go ahead into here and decrease that number from 9 to whatever you need it to do, because you'll see as you're uploading all your information and all your data into your UAS once you're done with your mission, it might go into a error mode, basically alarming you, letting you know that you don't have enough satellites connected to your UAS, therefore you cannot execute your operation. So just a little background to be familiar with. In case you see that error pop up, it's going to stem from here under this setting under GPS. Alright, we're going to go ahead and save those changes, and that's under profiles. Under payloads, they have all different types of sensors for all the stock UAS mentioned here under the vehicles. And the nice thing about here is you can adjust focal length. If you have specific parameters you need to operate within, if you're doing a photogrammetric mission, you can go ahead and change some of your actual sensor parameters to match what you're trying to accomplish. Also, if there's a sensor, say a new sensor hits the market and it's not maybe incorporated into UgCS, you can go ahead and install and upload a aftermarket sensor in here, set all the characteristics you need it to be set to, and you're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just click on, we'll say, the Canon 5D Mark II. And again, just like with the other parameters we saw for the actual profile of the vehicle, we can actually adjust and edit additional profiles or additional parameters set for the specific camera you're working with. Under users, most likely you're going to be under administrator. You'll be under the the oversight of a professor to make sure that you have the the correct access to the program. So you don't really need to worry about users. And then under configuration, we have a whole bunch of additional drop downs. We have connections, and that's going to be the overall source, the overall the host number, which is 127.0.0.1, and the default port 3334. Again, these are defaults. If you need to connect to a server not on the same network, then that would go into here. We have VSM, so you have all your parameters set here. Again, these are default stocks. If you really look closely here, it's really different ports are being adjusted here. So if you need to refine and really target a specific VSM configuration change, you can go ahead, click on it, edit it, and that's where you'll do it. Geo servers, we want to leave stock. I recommend not touching the GeoServer. I believe that UgCS primarily works with Google Maps or Google Earth under that database using the RTSM data. And I'm sorry, utilizing the SRTM data. Alright, under skin, if you want to change the color and the layout here, you can do so with these options. I'm going to go ahead and keep it default. I think that's the clearest viewing perspective here. Language, obviously English. Measurement, we've already visited that. Imperial. Sound, I would recommend leaving the sounds on if you're actually flying your UAS mission and there's some type of error or some type of alert that you need to be aware of. You'll have that audio indicator to warn you. Video, again, another default here. It's all on the one LAN being run by this server on my computer. But if you needed to run the video server at a remote location and you want to tap into it, this is where you're going to make those adjustments. And again, this 8081 is a default port, usually for video streaming. We have advanced here. You can export your route to KML if you needed to do that. Performance, appearance, and then 3D map cache. You can leave those all stock. Finally, if you need information about your license, you can visit that here. See what version you're running and see how long your activation is good until. And deactivate, say you have another computer you want to run this software on and you only have a certain number of licenses per your subscription. Go ahead, deactivate it, reactivate the activation key that you have on your other computer, and you'll be able to function and use the software accordingly. Once you're done with that computer, deactivate it on that computer, and you can go ahead and reactivate it on this computer. So that's where the license, the deactivate, might come in handy. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hit back, and again, we're in our demo mission here, and we're going to get a little more into this interface in the next tutorial. And that's all I have for now. Thank you, and I will see you in tutorial number 2.